You know, former FBI Director and Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller died this weekend. And you know who marked the occasion with a social media post claiming that he was, quote, glad he's dead. Now, most Americans, I think, would have thought, well, look, he did his job. And I have very specific feelings because I've been listening for months for people to talk about, you can't talk about the dead this way. You can, actually, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, you know, because when I first saw that social post saying, you know, glad he's dead, that way he can't hurt any more innocent people, I thought that that was something beneath the dignity of the office of the presidency. And then I remembered a couple of months back what J.D. Vance said about Charlie Kirk's death. Let's take a look at that.
We have a First Amendment in this country. The First Amendment protects a lot of very ugly speech. But if you celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, you should not be protected from being fired for being a disgusting person.
So,
great, let's fire him.
Yeah, you know, and I agree with those sentiments. I think that if you celebrate someone's death, you should be fired. I think it's inappropriate, especially coming from the President of the United States. I mean, if you think about Robert Mueller, he was the 6th FBI director in our country. He was also a Bronze Star combat Vietnam veteran. He received a Purple Heart. He actually went back to the Justice Department as a line prosecutor to prosecute homicides at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. He then also was a special prosecutor brought back into the fold and asked to do a job which was to investigate Donald Trump's campaign's possible ties to Russia. So, he was doing his job.
The tone starts at the top. Wow. And it trickles down. And I think for Donald Trump, this is when he hits rock bottom. Because he won people, there was a lot of his message that people were attracted to. And this is when he can't help himself and he gets himself in such trouble. It's indefensible. I'm so tired of the movement we've been in and his statements when people have served their life. I have 2 brothers that are currently serving this country. They don't get to pick which president they serve. They don't have that ability. And I look at someone like Robert Mueller. My dad has served every president since Ronald Reagan. This is how I was raised. At what point, either say nothing at all or send condolences to the family. It breaks my heart for this country. It's a race to the bottom. And I'm trying to raise kids, as we all are, and grandkids. And I'm trying to teach them how to be opposite of this. I'm trying to teach them how to be humble, how to be kind.
And isn't that sad that you have to teach your children to be the opposite of the president of the United States?
There's something particularly galling, I think, about the commander-in-chief in the middle of a war taking to Truth Social to attack somebody who won a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart while Commander Bone Spurs was dodging the draft. And it's the hypocrisy of this entire situation that I think is something that we can't get numb to. And I just want to remind people, though, because I've heard very few Republicans condemn this weekend. I saw the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, say we should have empathy, not to the family of Robert Mueller, but for Donald Trump is who we should have empathy for. This is the same thing he did with John McCain after he died. This is the same thing he did with Rob Reiner. This is who he is because he is a mean person with a dark heart, verbal diarrhea, and no impulse control. But let me just say this. Karma never forgets an address. And he is 80 years old. He's got obvious, visible physical ailments. And there will be people that when he passes away, as we will all pass away, will write these type of things and celebrate. Well, if you don't condemn it today from him, you don't have a right to condemn it then from anybody.
Well, also, you know, it's not like Mueller was sitting around his house saying, oh, you know what I want to do today? I'm gonna go indict the president. No, this isn't something he was sitting around saying, oh, I'm just gonna go do that to mess with him. This man did his job. His investigation led to 34 indictments. And some of those indictments were of his own people. They were put in jail. And then you know who pardoned some more of his own people. And I think to myself, I listen to you guys kvetch and clutch your pearls about what you thought was being said about Charlie Kirk. I listened to you. We felt for his family.
Absolutely.
And yet you don't have the courage or it's not even empathy.
Decency.
Just the
Character. Yeah,
decency to say, you know what, go with God. I didn't like what he did.
Right,
I didn't like what he
right.
did to me, but go with God. This is what we say about people we don't like. If we don't like their politics, and we don't like their personage, go with God. I don't like you, but God loves you. That's what we do. That's how America's supposed to run, regardless of what God you're talking about. And we will be right back before God gets mad at us.